Tune in to episode 85. We're shooting the shit and talking golf.
You're listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. With your hosts, Joe Ferranti and Jerry Kenna. Produced by Nathan Kenna. Interviewing entrepreneurs, business operators, and investors. This episode is brought to you by Wash, because laundry shouldn't cost your time. Wash delivers. Sign up at pickupwashdeliver.com. Do the wash. Skip the hassle.
Episode 85, Between Two Bridges. We're in the middle of a summer drowning of water.
Yeah,
Thank God.
What is going on, man?
Thank God we're not at the old office, dude. We'd be in bathing suits filming.
We'd be swimming.
If we'd be, blah, 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 blah.
This would be the underwater episode.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the guy in the post-round interview, I guess Allegheny County, like in the month, like the last 30 days, got 10.5 inches of rain.
Really?
Like it was a record. So
yeah, this has been pretty wild. It's currently raining. I can hear it.
Yeah. So
if you're listening, you might be able to hear it. Leave it in a comment.
Yeah, every Memorial, like every summer, it's like we'll go to the pool like 6 times. You join these pools, and then the weather just fights back.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, I mean, to pack up the kids and go to the pool, if there's a chance of rain, it's like we're not doing that.
Yeah, it's not worth it. And then you get 45 minutes, and then they close the pool because it's raining.
Or one bolt of lightning, you know?
Yep.
Have you ever? I don't even know anybody that got struck by lightning in a swimming pool. I think it's a myth.
I don't know if I'd want to risk it because, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, they say you have a better chance of hitting the lottery than you do getting struck by lightning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it happens. I mean, golf courses primarily tell you, like, don't hide under trees. But when it rains, immediate reaction is everybody just runs under a fucking tree. So,
yeah,
probably not the best. I was golfing one time with an old school dude, and he was like, I'm going to head in. And it was like sunny as could be out. And like, all right, whatever, loser. Dude, and literally like 8 minutes later, it just went completely black. And this was before like cell phone like updates and shit. And it rained. And like we were just trying to get back. And we get back, and he's just chilling, like eating a hot dog. And we come in soaking wet. And he's like, yeah, there was like this comma-shaped cloud in the sky, and anytime you see that comma hooking that way, like, you're fucked.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so he knew a thing or two about a thing or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was an asshole. He could have told me that.
He made it up.
Yeah, he just got lucky. He's been saying that for the last fucking 30 years. This time.
He happened to get lucky that day.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's going to rain today. It's same as the weather guy on TV.
I mean, if you were in Pittsburgh, it was a good shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had a good chance.
Yeah, he's more than 50-50.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been, man, every day.
Yeah, and when this episode comes out, we'll be in the middle of a heat wave, and they'll be asking for rain.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess we're at that age where we just bitch about the weather.
Yeah.
You know, I used to say, like, whenever I was in landscaping, like in college and after college a little bit, I would say, landscapers are never happy. It's either raining too much, it's not raining enough,
Well, I had a conversation with a client of mine that owns a landscaping company, and he doesn't do grass cutting anymore, but he was talking about, he was having a conversation with a friend of his that is a lawn guy and, does grass cutting. And he said, he's getting killed.
Yeah.
And he's, if you had to depend on that, this is a really hard time because people are complaining because, your yard's not perfect because it's hard to cut whenever it's wet,
Right.
because you've got to maintain a schedule. So you've got to cut even if it's raining or if it's, if the yard's wet, and it's hard to cut wet grass, you're going to end up with clumps, you're going to end up with issues. And, so people complain. So it's a hard business to run this time of year whenever you're getting this kind of rainfall. Grass is growing fast.
Yeah.
So, you have to keep cutting it
And then the flip side of the coin is, I used to cut grass for a living, and then it burns out. Like it'll be like 95 degrees for 5 days, and the grass will start dying off because it's burning out. And then they're like, no, don't cut it this week. Yeah. And you're like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So it's like every business. You take your lumps. I talked to a couple guys in the dry cleaning industry, and we're busy up until the first heat wave. Like this heat wave, people don't want to do shit. It's just like winter when it's 10 degrees out. Like they don't want to do shit. We weren't lying. See,
it's raining.
Is she coming down? They'd say it's raining cats and dogs.
Yeah, it is. It's raining good. I wonder if that's coming through on the mics.
Yeah, I hope it isn't. And then we just look like assholes. They're like,
these guys are making that shit up.
Like, we need to hire a sound effects guy. So we're getting into the part of summer where it's a lot of graduation parties. The big wedding part's over. I mean, there's still weddings, but
I had a graduation party on Saturday. It was raining. Yeah. It was a big outdoor graduation party. It was actually for the son of our previous guest, Mr. Mara.
Yeah.
It was a great party, but we left Oakmont, and it was beautiful out. It rained all morning.
See how that works? The accountant always gets invited to the party. The dry cleaner,
nah. Yeah. But we were on our way. We were leaving Oakmont, and I'm like, you know what? It looks like he's going to get lucky. It's beautiful. Skies were blue, and we're driving up 28. And it was just black. And I was like, well, so much for that luck.
Yeah.
And then it was pouring when we were there. Just freaking pouring. And it rained most of the time we were there.
Yeah, so. I'm definitely to blame for it. We bought a soft top. So there's that answer. Like tonight I was going to bring it. And then I was like, nah, it's going to rain.
Yeah. And there it is.
Nailed it. So enough bitching about the weather. But I think that comes with age, though.
Yeah.
I do. I think the older you get, we talked about it before, stay off my lawn, quit sending me junk mail.
Yeah.
I get a lot of spam calls.
Dude, I just got one.
Yeah. I've started calling some customers, and when you call them, it's Google Assistant answers. If you have a Google phone, you can set your level of screening, and then you have to state your reason for the call.
So did you see Apple in their newest update, not that it hasn't come out yet, but they just, at their last conference or whatever, they just were talking about it. The next Apple update is going to have that included.
Okay. Yeah, because Google phones have it. So, I mean, that right there made me think like, dude, I'll switch to a Google phone.
Apple's coming. Don't worry.
Yeah, because the AI calls were like, hey, how you doing? I don't know if you got my email. And I'm like, now I can't even suggest to the person to put me on the do not call list because AI's not picking that up.
Right.
So.
Yeah, they... I like that idea because you get so many spam calls, and it's nice to be able to. Apple did the screening thing where you can actually see the beginning of a voicemail and still pick it up if it's somebody you want to talk to. So that's nice, but it's basically that, so they can kind of announce who they are, leave a little bit of an introduction, and then you can decide whether to answer the phone.
So I'm not sure if any of our listeners are. Listening to this for gambling tips. We do cross the line into sports from time to time. Yeah. But if they were listening last week or today, actually, they probably got a good chuckle out of me saying that JJ Spawn was going to blow up and lose.
I noticed that. I did listen to some of the episode today, and he shot a 66 the day we recorded.
Recorded, yes.
And he won.
Yeah.
Speaking of rain.
Dude, yeah, that was an impressive show of just stick to it, man. Just there's nowhere to hide when you're on a golf course and you're in a tournament like that. And there was a lot of it's a life lesson to learn. Dude, just keep sticking to it because he talked about how he was going to look for a job a couple years ago, and then he came in second place, and but that week he just stuck to it. He did the best. I mean,
how about just that day?
Yeah.
I mean, the front nine, he had a double bogey and 3 bogeys?
Yeah, he had, I think 4 or 5. He shot 40 on the front.
Yeah.
But not only did he shoot 40, he hit a rake that put him in a bad lie. He's on pace to shoot 80.
Yeah.
He's on pace to shoot 10 over. But if you watch how he got to that 40, on 2, he hit a great shot, hits the pin. It goes all the way back into the fairway.
How about that? That's crazy.
I think it was 3. He hits a halfway decent shot. It's going in the rough. It's not going to be too bad. It hits a rake, takes his funky bounce, and buries into the rough. So, and he said it. He was like, at some point it's got to turn. You know what I mean? And it was a good life lesson in there. And he had hypercycles on his shirt and bridges for between 2 bridges. that was
He did it
building-
on purpose. He's throwing us a shout out.
Yeah, so he'll come on. I mean, he was on the Today Show today. He said he'll get back to us.
Yeah, he was. It was an impressive showing, and a lot of those guys had tough breaks throughout the day. Particularly Burns, they talked about a couple bad breaks. He had that one shot that was on the edge of the fairway, buried in water. The USGA said that it didn't qualify for a drop. That's probably questionable. He had a couple.
Well, he got a second opinion, and that's when I kind of put the onus on the player, like, because when you're in wet conditions, you have the option to like I take a significant divot. Typically, I call it compressing the golf ball. But when you're in wet conditions or in like a soft lie, you need to be more careful. You know, and these guys are used to playing on courses where the fairways are like hard because they're sand bedded fairways. Like they would not play well somewhere like Birdsfoot, you know.
Yeah.
But you got to know how the depth of the club, you know, and I'm not saying he didn't get rooked a little bit. Like, yeah, he did, but he let it get to him, and that's what made Spawn's, you know, round so impressive, is that he just kept plugging away. So that was cool.
Well, we saw it the whole week, and we said it a couple weeks ago that Oakmont is a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Because if you're not crazy focused the entire day, the entire week, it's such a mental course that if you have one bad shot and you let it affect your brain, there's no coming back from it. And you watched those players, watch Rory. He got pissed.
Broke a tee marker.
He broke a tee marker. He threw a club. You know, so he got pissed and it affected his game. It happened with Burns. He couldn't recover. It happened with Spawn, but he recovered. And that was the difference. He made the difference.
Yeah, and like, unfortunately, Wyndham Clark, a guy that wasn't even around on the weekend, decided after his round on Friday, in his best nature, he'd kick out 2 lockers at Oakmont Country Club.
Yeah, I heard, and he's banned. Is that true?
I don't know if they'll ban him. There'll be some backlash. He'll pay and he'll apologize, and that's the convenience of having money. But I think that if he's still around in 8 years, he might be like the guys at the golf course putting his shoes on in the parking lot and stretching in the fan spectator parking, because I don't think they're going to let him in. You know, and I wouldn't. I mean, that is we know it because we live local to it. People now know it because it just had the Open. They'll forget it in a couple months, but it's hallowed ground. It's like, you know.
Yeah, and the coverage of the course, you know, from the television coverage, they talked about it, how it was hallowed ground. And
I mean, it's some of these times, like, you get to go to these places, and I've been fortunate enough to lace them up in Oakmont, and it's, you know, you are humbled by it. You should be humbled by it. Like, it's not a thing that everybody can just go do, you know, and you're a guest there, and these guys were guests for the week, and you should treat it like that. You know what I mean? So I was talking to one of the people I was doing work for, and they said that I don't know how accurate this is. I just met the guy, but he said the guy in the locker room told him when they did the extra lockers, because they had to put more lockers in when they did some renovation, but they wanted them to look the same. So they researched what type of wood, like all this research went into it, and they figured it to be about $7,000 a locker to install them, like to build them out. And then they like distressed them to make them look the same. So it didn't like, they did a good job. Apparently everything at Oakmont's first class. And then this guy just comes in and smashes it. Like,
did he smash the new ones or the old ones?
I don't know, but it's definitely a members locker, you know? So like the members have to clean out their lockers for the week, and then they use the members locker room. But I think if it was my locker, personally, I'd want to leave it broken. You know, like, and I'd put a plaque there. Unnamed Jagoff smashes locker. But yeah, he'll pay for that for sure. He's dealing with some shit, and that's the other side of this coin, like, where we got a firsthand look at a unique sport here locally, because these guys are essentially they all work for themselves. They're 1099 employees. They do so much to get ready and prepare, and a lot goes into it. They're not like average golfers where they just like, hey, we want to go golfing today. This is their livelihood. Mm-hmm. So like when they struggle, you know.
Well, that was what I found so fun to watch. And I'm not, you know, I'm a had a couple of people that invited me up, and I did go up Sunday for a few hours with my family, but I had a couple of people that invited me up for the practice rounds and spent a bunch of time up there. And I'm not a big golfer. I told them, I said, I'm a golf outing golfer. I'm a go up and drink beer and smoke cigars kind of golfer. I'm not a very good golfer. I don't typically watch tournaments on TV. I'm just not as into it. I did watch some of the coverage and found it really entertaining because it was my hometown. So all the coverage of my hometown and seeing the history of the course and the history of, not so much the history of the town, but
you get
history of the course to get the sense of the historical nature of it.
You get to take a sneak peek at something you don't get to see all the time.
Yeah, but that and watching world-class golfers, the best in the world, struggle. And watching them, and there were a couple times I'm watching and they're taking shots, and I would text like my brother, I'm like, they look like me. Like they're hitting it and they're hitting it 2 yards.
Yeah.
And they're pissed. And I'm like, it looks like me out there. Like they're hacking.
You're like, I got that shot in my bag.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is kind of fun to watch because it's humbling to them. And then I went up there on Sunday for a few hours, and I said to my wife, I said, look at this. This is comical. I said, some of these holes, they look like giant miniature golf holes that are just like, this is a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Like it was built as obviously like, let's make this so fucking hard.
That was HC Funds' thing. He said a poor shot played should be a shot lost. He didn't think that it was fair for you to be able to hit a bad shot and then be able to advance the golf ball on the next one. Like you should pay for hitting the bad shot first. And that's what he built that whole principle on. Man,
there were holes that if you had a bad shot, good luck.
Yeah, especially like a lot like number 2 tilts towards you, towards the fairway. So like if you hit it deep on 2, you were smoked. So like there was no way to stop it, like hitting back at it. So like on the first couple of days, they put it down towards the middle to like make it fair. So these guys could hit the ball long and spin it back towards it and have a chance. Well, on Sunday's pin, it was like back left, like maybe 4 or 5 paces off the back. So like these guys had to try to attack it because they needed to shoot low to get into the hunt, and they were just hopping the ball over the back, and it was like, good night, dude. You're like chipping on and hopefully not chipping it back into the fairway. But that's been the USGA shtick for years. They seek out places like Oakmont for these guys to play, and they said it a lot during the broadcast. Was like, we're not here to embarrass the world's best golfers. We're trying to identify them. So I thought that was kind of cool because you don't want somebody just, there's long drive championships for a reason. And these guys really had to play the course.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for listening. And now a brief word from our sponsor. You've got a full plate. Kids, meetings, workouts, side hustles. There's better things to do than laundry. Introducing Wash, laundry reimagined for the modern world. Schedule your pickup in seconds via the convenient web app. Wash picks up your clothes, cleans with care, and brings them back fresh and ready to wear. But it's more than garments. From bedding and table linens to shoes, hats, purses, and more. Wash handles all your life's fabric, leaving you more time to do you. Visit pickupwashdeliver.com and see how convenient it can be to do the wash. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, it was fun. I watched a lot of it on TV as I was working. So I made that was a company decision on Monday when I realized how much I was going to be doing. I went to Target and I had to get some supplies in a pinch. So I went to Target and I was like, I'm buying a TV. So I watched pretty much every day. So other than the times that I had to go drop off. And that was like kind of cool because you're like, I'm watching this on TV. I'm driving past it right now. Like, it's kind of cool to be involved with all of it. So
yeah, so let's talk about that. So your involvement, you were contracted by the security company that was contracted by the USGA.
Correct.
You cleaned all the uniforms for that security company all week long.
2 weeks, yeah.
For 2 weeks. And so what all did you have to do every day? So it was a marathon. I know
it was a marathon. So like we kind of came up with a schedule that we would go. We picked up at 9 a.m. and dropped off at 9 in the morning. And then we went back at 4 in the afternoon, picked up and dropped off. And then we went back and we had to go back at 9:30, 10 o'clock to pick up and drop off.
So you were picking up and dropping off 3 times a day?
Yeah. Yeah. When the initial call came in, they said, just pick up at 7, have it back by midnight. So I'm like, okay. But when I got there and dealt with the people on the grounds, they were like, that doesn't even, like our night shift doesn't even get off till 10. So like we have 115 people on the course at night at 10 o'clock getting off. So you're going to pick up at 7, and when you come back at 10, we're going to have another 115 uniforms for you. So we figured it out amongst, and that's usually how that stuff works. Like someone in an office calls you, and then the people on the ground figure it out. I had help in the morning, like folding, but that afternoon shift and night shift was pretty much me, because it was hard to gauge it, because like I think there was one trip in the middle there where I went up and got like 60 uniforms because I didn't time it right. So like they had people still working, and like if I'd have brought a staff in for 60 polos, it's stupid, you know. Yeah. So I did a lot of it myself. We had some other contracts that kind of came our way throughout the week where people needed some stuff done in a pinch, and we did it. And it was kind of like a lot of work, you know. And it was a lot of hours. It was about, I'd say anywhere between 18 hours a day I was doing, but it's worth it at the end. What's nice about modern technology is I had a credit card on file. So after you put an 18-hour day in and you add up all the poundage and enter in the computer and hit submit, I was getting paid for it. So that made that drive home at night a little bit easier, and that next morning waking up a little bit better, you know? Because in the old days, you do all this work and I could be chasing a check for, 30 days, 90 days. So, and then you're in the fear, like, am I even going to get paid? Because then they're out of town. They don't give a shit. But everybody I've had an interaction with up there has experience with the USGA. So they really like to do business with people they know, like every other business. But their problem is they have to bring people in from out of town. Some of the things I saw, like, that were inaccurate are like the local businesses, and I'm thinking about joining the Chamber of Oakmont Commerce, so I don't want to bash them too much. And they did try to do a good job for their people, but the people that are on the news saying that, I didn't see any extra business because of this, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
Like, you're not you aren't in the market. There's certain businesses that people come to, and there's certain people like that go down street and pass you, and then they might buy a thing or two. If you're in that business, you're not going to do anything.
Yeah. So
they just felt like people were supposed to come to Oakmont, throw their wallet out the window, and everybody was supposed to make $1 million.
Yeah, it was an interesting week for Oakmont. I felt like some things were handled very well. Some things were handled not so well by the borough. We've kind of talked about that over the last few weeks. We don't need to go back into that, but
the actual president of the borough police department in Oakmont, I didn't see one Oakmont cop the whole week.
Yeah, I don't think they were real present with that, but there were a ton of police. So I think the USGA contracted with other police departments to handle that, and they paid
Oakmont
them
could take care of Oakmont.
so that Oakmont could handle Oakmont, which is fine. Which is good, because as an Oakmont resident, I need to know that if I call 911, somebody's going to respond and not say, well, we're busy with an open.
Yeah. Or guys are on 13 and 7. They'll be there as fast as they can.
Yeah. And I didn't, I live somewhat close to the open. I didn't have any issues with parking. I was one of the houses that had the resident parking passes, and it worked fine. I was able to accommodate some people. They gave you an extra one that you could use for a friend, and I was able to accommodate some friends and clients and stuff to use to park in front of my house so they could go to the open. It was cool. It was a nice thing. So that was good. The first few days, the practice rounds, the traffic was super light in the morning, and I didn't actually go up toward the open at all week in my vehicle, in a car. Until I walked up there, I didn't bother. I just stayed away from it. So, Oakmont as a whole, didn't really seem like it was getting a ton of traffic. In the evenings, I kind of made a point to drive by some of the restaurants and stuff, and they were busy.
Yeah.
So I think kind of what you said. Like your business had to be within the demographic that was there, right?
Yeah.
So if you're
and there was a lot of 20-year-old single guys with a group of friends, that aren't coming to buy knickknacks in Oakmont.
Yeah, exactly. If you're selling something that is attractive to them, then and you marketed yourself as such and extended your hours,
which a lot of them did,
right? Then you were busy. The ice cream shop seemed to be busy all the time. The restaurants seemed to be busy when I drove by. I think for the most part, I think it was fine. I think that a lot of those places, you just kind of wanted to be steady and busy.
Right.
You didn't want to be overloaded necessarily. Right. You're not gonna make $1 million when the Open comes into town.
No, I mean, some of the people on top of the hill were parking, 20 cars at $100 a clip.
Yeah.
And, it's just found money at that point. You're not going to retire on the money from the Open.
No, I kind of wonder.
I think in 16, you were not allowed to park cars.
You weren't, but here's the thing about that. Here's the little factoid about that, the loophole about that. So there is an ordinance that Oakmont passed before 16 saying, because they didn't want people doing that. So there is an ordinance saying you're not allowed to park a car in your front yard to keep people from doing that. But if you do park a car in your front yard, you have 30 days to remove it. The Open's only there for, 7 days?
Yeah.
So their car won't be there in 30 days. So
they scare tactic people last time.
Right. There was actually a person in Oakmont last year that was building a house for the fucking 10 years before the Open and had never finished his landscaping or finished the outside of his house. And Oakmont was starting to get kind of pissed off because he was right by the country club. And they were starting to send letters like, hey, you need to do something. You need to do something. You need to do something. So he did. He poured gravel all through his front yard and then parked cars on it. So some people stick their nose to him, but that's the thing. Oakmont can't enforce that ordinance because it's only the Open's only here for a week. So those people parking cars, Oakmont can't do anything. It's only here for a week. They're not going to start towing cars off your front yard.
And I think
what I wonder though about those cars parking there. So you make, say you park 10 cars a day, whatever. Okay. So you make a few $1,000. How much is it going to cost you to fix the lawn that you destroyed because it rained for 3 of those days?
I drove past them. They didn't look too bad.
They didn't?
Some of the inclines where you would pull in were kind of fucked up. But yeah, I think that's, for those people, I think it's more about being part of it. They feel like they have a piece in it. But I think one of the things 07 and 16, we were living in that post 9/11 world still. And they're who's to say they don't take a Cybertruck up there, loaded to the tilt with C4 and just blow up a half a block of Oakmont. I think that was one of their concerns. But that makes me wonder how that all played out because Oakmont's police were heavily involved for years in this, and then it kind of was they got kicked to the back burner a little bit.
Yeah.
So maybe the USGA just went above their head on some shit.
Yeah. It seemed like everything kind of went smoothly as far as the police and the traffic. I think it was all handled pretty well as far as that goes and people coming in and out. And, one thing I was a little bit concerned with all the weather that came in and out is that, I think you mentioned last week that if there's lightning, everybody got to go. And if that would have happened, all the traffic leaving
would have been a nightmare.
The club would have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
And then being there Sunday, I know Oakmont like the back of my hand. So I'm walking around the course, and I've never even been on the grounds of Oakmont Country Club, like the golf course. I've been in the club 1 time or 2 times, but I've never been on the course. But I'm capable of knowing where I'm at, right? So I'm I know that Halton Road is right there. How the hell do I get out of here? And I'm walking around. We're trying to find the freaking gate. And I'm thinking if everybody had to leave here all at one time because of lightning, this would be a disaster.
Yeah, and they really got you fenced in. There's only certain places you can leave.
It was all through gate 5. They only had one way in and out
on that
Sunday,
bottom side. Yeah, if you wanted to go up top, you could exit to the buses.
which was what, up by Soma?
Yeah.
Well, that was a mile away.
Yeah, I don't think you were allowed to walk out there. So I was in like a unique situation because I didn't have a ticket. I had like my security
Yeah, so
badge.
that was a question I was going to have. So when you're delivering that stuff, did you have to go through all that? Because we had to walk, honestly, from my house to like the Presby Senior Care
2 blocks.
was less of a walk than Presby Senior Care to the actual course because of the maze of gate 5.
Yeah. So whenever we delivered, we were up towards Soma's, like where the buses were going, and we were one entrance above. They had like a paved service road there. And actually, some people had an S pass where they could park up there. I had like a utility pass that allowed me to get in and out of there. And what's cool is like these people, you know, they security, police, they're observant. So like after day 2, they were just like, come on. Like they knew the van, they knew me. They were like, you're good. But when I had the opportunity to go walk around with my security badge, like I was parked where like the vendors were parked, and I like didn't know how to get there. So I was like, wow, I know the buses are coming in and dropping people off. I'm gonna head that way. And like there was no direction. So I just like walked down between all the buses and like walked in and walked around and scanned my badge, and everywhere you could go, it was green. So I just kept going and going. And it was cool to just walk around.
Yeah. And
I got to see some stuff that like the general people wouldn't have seen, but it was, there was a lot of people there, you know, it was, and they bring you everybody in through one bridge. So I think that's some of the feedback I saw is like people were like, they should build another bridge. And I'm like, I don't know, man, there's 3 bridges there. So the players used the road bridge. They didn't even go walking across they had a cart bridge and a pedestrian bridge.
What bridge are you talking about? Over the turnpike?
Yeah. The where you drive over to like the turnpike in your truck, like on Holton. They sectioned that sidewalk off with the black tent, and that's where the players came off one and walked around. So they weren't even using either 2 of the bridges on the course, but they had one shut down for carts only, and the other one was the pedestrian walkway. I guess they have to do that because like if they needed to get a car or an ambulance across that, and that's what your uncle was involved with when they did play, they actually drove a bus across one of those bridges, like a van, and got them out there to 8. He was police escorting them like through the golf course, like,
okay,
which was kind of wild when they had to get back out there. So, I mean, they know what they're doing. Like we have a business podcast. You're an accountant. I'm a dry cleaner. They do these things all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair for anybody to give the USGA shit. I think that,
and they're getting a lot of shit right now.
Yeah, which is like crazy because they could pull the plug on it, you know, and say, hey, we just won't come back. Yeah. I mean, obviously they have probably contracts to be here for the next 3 or 4, but you know, it's just the loudest people, the squeakiest wheel gets the oil. So the loudest people bitching are getting their voices heard. But so many people had memorable experiences with their kids, you know, on Father's Day, on Sunday, being at the U.S. Open. Like,
yeah, and you know what? A lot of the 2 biggest complaints I heard was that there was nowhere to wash your hands.
Okay. Yeah, they did have those sanitizer things in the tour, but they were like all empty.
I guess they're all empty.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an easy fix. Okay, so have somebody refill the sanitizer.
It was raining like a motherfucker.
Yeah. The other thing was that it was muddy. Okay, it rained. What do you want them to do?
Yeah, I mean, they did dump some mulch in some heavily trafficked areas, but I could imagine where the groundskeeper would step in between like 1 and 9 and say, look, you're not mulching this whole hill because we got to pick it all up. Like,
right.
Like this is still a golf course.
Right.
You know,
and it's in a very exclusive golf course that they don't want.
If you want that type of experience, maybe golf's not your sport. You know, maybe a suite at a Penguin Game's more up your alley. But I mean, for what they've done there and how they did it, I was hats off to them.
They legit built a city.
Yeah, the biggest problem they had, I think, Monday was they had everybody. So for years, the Monday merchandise tent would be open and it would be like half off. Some stuff would be on.
Yeah, they were turning everybody away
because they didn't have anything left to sell, and they stopped that whenever Fanatics took over because Fanatics is an online retailer. So if you want to buy the stuff, you don't have to come up here on Monday. We'll put it on sale. It'll be online. We'll ship it to your house.
Yeah,
you know, and I get where they're coming from. They've gotten better at judging how much they're going to sell. First of all, because people that were there during the rain delay said there was only smalls and like 3XLs anyway. So they plan accordingly. They know how much shit they're going to sell. They probably have an equation to tickets, to sales, and then they're smart. They open it up Monday, Tuesday before the event. They opened it up like, what was it? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before golf even started, that tent was open. So you get all the people that are rambunctious that want the shit that's going to pay full price. So as a business acclimate, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Give some pre-sales instead of discounts.
Yeah.
And they sold a ton of shit. I mean, I got my US Open hat. I liked it because it was a different color. But yeah, and Dick's Sporting Goods is selling this stuff. So like if you needed one, you can still go to Dick's and get one.
Yeah.
And they were selling it 2-3 years in advance.
Were they?
Yeah, so if you go to the USGA's website on Monday and you click on US Open gear, they already have the stuff out for 2026 for Shinnecock Hills. Like they got it. They figured it out. They're not in this business to lose money. So, but yeah, they did a great job. I would attest to that. I mean, not just because I made a boatload of money. It was cool to see, like, actually the Herc rental, they had like 10,000 golf carts up there. They just broke down and like got another one. There was a full-time mechanic for 10 days up there working on golf carts. So,
but we're going to see if we can try to get some people that were involved in the Open.
Yeah, we talked about the last episode. I think I have like a list of people I started emailing, and then I emailed some other businesses today. One of the things I think I realized through that grind was your body reacts different to long days at 40 than it did at 20, you know? And I learned that when I was moving the business too. And I think I said to you on the phone at one point, I said, I'm just cutting out at midnight. Like I can't go any longer. But like,
and then the next day you went till 3.
Yeah. That was, I got an extra side job. I got a side job during the side job, you know, like, so sometimes as a business owner, you're a whore for a buck, you know, and that's just unfortunate. But, you know, you're like the circuses in town and they're buying peanuts. I'm selling peanuts. Let's go. But, yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that, but it was, yeah. So at 40, I realized like, man, like some of the things that you don't look at, like, and you're in the grind is like your habit, like you're eating, you know, like you kind of pass the meal and then so one of the people I was emailing today about coming on the show is like a dietitian to like understand that, because I think we a lot of our listeners are in that age bracket where it's like, I'm not lazy, you know, I'm not out of shape, but like I didn't eat good, you know, and like maybe I should have been taking some pre-workout creatine or sniffing some bath salts or something to get me going, but like I needed something, you know, and I think that those people know, like, you know, because I listen to 93.7 The Fan quite a bit, and they talk about that Awaken 380 or whatever, 180, and they talk about like if you're going to dinner, you can take a picture of the menu and send it to them. They tell you what to eat. So I'd like to get somebody on here to like give us some advice on that.
Yeah, I think it's good.
But yeah, I'm still like in groundhog mode. I'm gonna go home and sleep. So,
do it.
Yeah, I missed out on some hours, so I'm gonna gain them back. But yeah, so we talked about the Open. That's the biggest thing around here right now. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and thanks, guys.
All right, till next time.
Thank you for listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. Find and follow us on your preferred podcast streaming platform. Like and subscribe, and leave us a rating and review. You can join us socially on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. You can email the show at info@betweentwobridgespodcast.com. Until next time, make it till you rake it.
All right, relax. Tiger Woods, y'all.